no matter where we are, no matter where they are, no matter how good they think they are, death, taxes, and beating Spurs. A wonderful night, a really wonderful night. I think it arguably is the best performance under Mauricio Pochettino. And when you factor in that we had so many players out injured, 14 I think is the right number. And they have been so heralded for their season under Postecoglou. I thought tactically Mauricio Pochettino got it spot on, and it was so nice to see a continuation from what we saw against Aston Villa in that second half, because it feels like at times when we've had those good moments, we haven't really seen a follow-up. But the players psychologically looked so up for this game. I thought the way we isolated and were able to stifle Spurs. I mean, to be honest, they didn't create a lot of clear looks at our goal, which has been a real problem for Chelsea defensively. So from a defensive point of view, against a team who attack-wise have been pretty exciting this year and been able to score quite a few goals, that's impressive. With a very young defence too, the likes of Trevoh, Chalobah, Alfie Gilchrist, Marc Cucurella having his best performance in a Chelsea shirt. And then you look, up top, I thought Madueke had good moments. Obviously, Nicolas Jackson scoring a big goal for him, arguably one of his biggest in a Chelsea shirt so far. Just across the team, and Moises Caicedo for me was outstanding, immense. It just shows what this team can do. And I'm just happy the season hasn't completely died. They had to win tonight to keep any form of European football and chances of qualifying for Europe alive. They obviously did. They have. We now move on to Sunday. It's a quick turnaround. They need to win that game as well. I think the biggest switch we've seen is this new formation in possession that is making a real difference for Chelsea. And I think it's maybe giving players roles that more suit them. It's getting Chelsea into areas where they can be more dangerous. I thought it was quite ironic, actually, that despite all of that open play talk, our 2 goals are 2 headers, and they both come from set pieces. An area where Chelsea haven't been good offensively or defensively this season. So there's a tick there, and quite a collector's item, really. Because all round, it just looked like Chelsea in that first half were able to, as I say, nullify Spurs. Cucurella coming into a central role really makes a difference, adds more mobility to that area. I think adds an extra body, so Chelsea were able to crowd out Spurs. Spurs were really finding it difficult to get into a rhythm where they were trying to play the ball through our press. They were finding it difficult too, and the way it went from a 4 in defence, sometimes a 5 in defence. The back three of Gilchrist, Chalobah and Badiashile I thought worked really well together. They really prevented the likes of Heung-min Son from ever really getting into the game. And even when James Maddison came on later against the tiring Chelsea defence, he found it very difficult to make things happen as well. Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski, these are not bad footballers. These are very good attackers that have been exciting for Spurs this season. Richarlison barely had a sniff tonight, and goals per minute, I think he's one of the highest in a Spurs aspect. So tactically, Chelsea have been at times, they've looked incompetent this year. Offensively, it feels like we've come up against teams where we haven't looked to expose their flaws in a good way, like we haven't been watching them before. And defensively, we've been suckered in and nullified and also exposed in ways that feel quite easy. Tonight, it was the complete opposite. It was a real performance of conviction. This is a better display and a better win than the one we had away at Spurs, which I know sounds weird because we beat them 4-1 at their own ground. But I walked away from that game asking questions about Chelsea. Nothing tonight. And I think it says so much about the spirit within the group. You've got to give a lot of praise to the spirit within the group because they faced some very difficult moments. It was only, over a week ago now, Chelsea got absolutely walloped by another London rival. And that was a very bleak night. It still remains a bleak night. Beating Spurs is kind of the norm for Chelsea. But the response they've had since that half-time against Villa has objectively been very positive. I just hope they can continue this and end the season on a high based on what we have currently and get some form of European football. Because compared to last year, obviously it's a lot better. At least there's something to fight for. At least there's some energy. And for Spurs to lose at the Bridge again, always marvellous. And for Pochettino, it's arguably, I think some Chelsea fans will see this based on how you interpret the Chelsea-Spurs rivalry, where it is on your kind of list of rivals. This is big. He's done the double over Spurs. We were unable to do that last year. And I think that's obviously a big thing for Chelsea fans and a nice bragging rights thing in a season that hasn't brought a lot of highs. And I think for a young group too, I look at Chalobah, scoring that goal as a Cobham grad, and Alfie Gilchrist too, Conor Gallagher, those three, and Josh Akpom coming on very later in the game as well. Just seeing that, I think, was really powerful. And of course, the banner pre-game that was talking about Conor Gallagher and very much going against the idea we need to sell a lot of these academy graduates tonight was just more proof of how foolish that idea is. But it's not just about them tonight. Moises Caicedo, he absolutely was monstrous. I mean, he was eating up every challenge out there. He was winning the ball. His anticipation for when to make a tackle was brilliant. He was able to help us transition on a lot of cases. And, as I say, credit to the coach for setting up a system that gets the best out of his players, gets the best out of a player like Marc Cucurella. But then also on the player for responding to difficult moments, because there's been a lot of question marks over Moises Caicedo, and that was a high-level performance. It was a high-level performance from a lot of Chelsea players. So in isolation, you have to celebrate it. And I'm never gonna moan about beating Spurs at Stamford Bridge, even though we do it a lot. For Pochettino, I'm sure it's. I don't think he'll admit it publicly, but he'll be smiling a lot behind closed doors, because the fear of losing this game as a former Spurs head coach. Of course, he was the one that beat Chelsea a couple of years ago, one of the only Spurs coaches to win at Stamford Bridge in a long time. That fear of what could have happened tonight if it went the wrong way, and given he didn't have a full deck to play with, I think is impressive. And I just want a bit of consistency now. Can Chelsea follow this up with another convincing display on Sunday? Because on Sunday, it's a different... I know it's another London derby, but Chelsea are probably more expected to win that game. The intensity is not going to be the same as a night game against Spurs, where Chelsea fans are always going to be up for it against Spurs at Stamford Bridge. 2 p.m. on a Sunday, the same conviction, the same mentality, the same precision has to be there. Because if Chelsea are going to end this season well, that has to be there. This team isn't good enough to coast. And I just hope we see a bit more of that consistency, because then the complexion of how we look at the club, how we look at what Chelsea are going to be moving into the summer, obviously is a lot more positive. Nicolas Jackson, can I just say this? So happy for Jackson that he scored that goal, because he's had a difficult time of it as well in recent weeks. He's missed a lot of big opportunities, and I think his all-round game remains really positive. But to score that goal for him, a crucial goal in a Chelsea game, you could see how much it meant to him. More proof of how Jackson has been a positive addition to this Chelsea side. And Palmer coming very close to scoring a wondrous free kick. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Death taxes, beating Spurs, up the Chelsea.